Greetings everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Atta Conversations. Today with us I have Mudit Gupta and Shourya Saluja, who are the founders of the Aatmasaat. Let me start by the first question. What made you start Aatmasaat, and what was your idea behind it, and what does your company really do?
So if we talk about how did we start it, it's a funny story, and I guess Shaurya would be the one who will be telling it. It's a really funny story, and लगेगा कि
Right,
हम ऐसे ही बोल रहे हैं, but
Mm-hmm.
right. So, Mudit and I met each other in a coaching institute when we were in 12th, and we had this very minor conversation about startups and our interest in, entrepreneurship. And that conversation somehow diluted. And during the lockdown, around like a year later, Mudit calls me one day randomly, Shaurya sun. I was like, what? He said, भाई एक startup खड़ा करते हैं. मैंने कहा, what? कहता भाई ये आइडिया है ये है ये मैंने कहा ब्रो आई एम नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस तू मिल मुझे कहता
हाँ,
ठीक है शाम को साइकिल निकाल ठीक है वी वेंट ऑन फॉर साइकिलिंग एंड साइकिलिंग करते करते एंड वी रीच लाइक दिस commercial hub
I
near
guess
our place. Yeah, and you were sitting at a restaurant, and that's where we figured out everything. We figured out the whole plan, the name, and everything. And yeah, that's how we basically came up with it. uh, why we came up with it, I think I'll cover that. But before that, a really funny story about, very interesting, not funny, about the
sure,
name
sure.
as well. I think Mudit's gonna cover that.
yeah. So basically, I personally wanted something with A because SEO में ऊपर आ जाता है and like
Right.
था थोड़ा. So I
Yeah.
wanted that कि we have a name from A, and I
Hmm.
wanted something in Sanskrit because I guess you know that
Right.
about the spiritual side and
Yeah,
all. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I wanted something in Sanskrit.
Yeah, sure.
So we were looking for something that had a good meaning in Sanskrit,
Hmm.
and was starting from A. So Shaurya was searching for names. It took us an hour, but that day we like started our company, came up with the name. So that meeting was like one of the best meetings of my life, I can say. And we came up with the name Aatmasaat. Yeah.
So, what's
we
your
we
company?
went to
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Go on.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we used the most handy dandy tool, that's Google, and we used the tissue paper from the restaurant, and we were writing different name options. We like double A, let's just log this in, and it had a very good meaning, which
Right.
the word means to imbibe knowledge. So
Hmm.
we found it very suitable. And as coming on to what we do, so both of us being involved in extracurriculars for the entirety of our high school lives, we realized
Hmm.
that in our school we are in a very protective shell of our teachers when we are engaging in any activity. And once we enter college, it's completely different, as to because you have to do everything on your own. The professors have absolutely nothing to do with the events and the extracurriculars of the college. So
Right.
this transition is very difficult for some students, and to take this jump, it becomes very hard for some students. So we place ourselves right between that gap so as to make that transition easier for the students. Right. So we introduce those extracurricular activities into the school level so that that transition is smoother. And now with the pandemic, children are not able to go to their schools. This gap has even widened, and our the need of our startup has even increased more. And with that respect, the government also introduced the new education
Hmm.
policy,
Right.
which further makes us relevant in this sector, makes us more important in the sector for the school students.
Right. Right.
Because
So,
come on, at the end of the day, the soft skills would help you in your corporate world or maybe like in the real world, not the course which you are studying in schools and colleges.
right. No, no, I get it. Can you give example to our listeners, like one or two example of any extracurricular activities you have just started with, or you are just in an initial stage of?
Right, right. So we have started with modeling animation, Scrabble. We are going towards content writing, graphic designing. We are also working towards meditation, financial
Hmm.
literacy, game, whatnot. So all of these activities which are given more importance in college, we are focusing on those. Right, we will start on working on case competitions, pitching competition, elevator pitches, all of those things. But for that, what we need is things to get a little better, the situation to get a little better. Because giving an online session is all right for us, like this
Hmm.
podcast.
Yeah.
But once we have, face to face, one on one interaction, the impact of it just multiplies.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I get it. So apart from that, I really love your idea, but I also feel that, I wish all these extracurricular activities should have been included in the school itself. So do you think that schools should hire edtech firms like yours for these activities, or schools should have their own professional, I would say faculty for these things?
See,
You
I personally
yeah,
feel having personal faculties for the same would be really hectic and difficult at the same time. So hiring some firms would be better because outsourcing, it's cost saving plus it's more effective since the firm would be mastering in the services they're providing. So that would benefit the kids a lot. And uh, like if we talk about us, we provide the best services for Scrabble and MEN, and even the certifications. If we talk about it, if they hire someone, so they might have some basic knowledge about the concept or the
Hmm.
extra curriculum, but since we guys are mastering in it, we can provide you the best knowledge and the best mentorship in it. So if you hire the firm, you're getting the best. And if you hire someone, like if you have permanent staff, then you wouldn't be getting the best. You will have to go with average, if you get my point.
Hmm.
right.
No, no,
So
I'm getting your
to
point.
to add on to that, if I talk about my school and some other schools that I have learnt about, these extracurriculars are handled by the existing faculty, right? So,
Yeah,
for example, in my school, the theater was managed by the English and the Hindi faculty combined, right?
right.
And MU was given to the social science faculty. So,
Yeah,
like
same.
that was what was done. But these teachers, although they whatever guidance that they gave us was very useful, they themselves had never been a part of those events,
Right,
right? So they truly embodied the true spirit of effective coaches, but who never really entered the playing field. But we at Atmasat are the effective coaches that are still present in the playing field, and
right,
we are still learning and we are still growing. So we have an upper hand there. And
right.
being from India, I think outsourcing is the cheapest option to the schools that is available. And one insight that I'd like to give you and to
Hmm.
all the listeners that we have, uh, right now with everything being shifted to online mode, right? This is the new normal. So everyone has figured out that all of the activities that you are achieving offline can be achieved online as well.
Yes.
So some companies and some organizations are looking for a hybrid model once COVID goes
Hmm.
away, right? Online and offline. So
Hmm.
with that hybrid model, parents are not willing to give that much school fee because
Hmm.
the children are not able to avail the school facilities, the infrastructure, right? So
Right,
if they hire a professional uh, teacher, a permanent staff, that's going to cost the school a lot, and that's going to result in an increase in the fees, which the parents would not be able to give. Right? We sit right between the activity fees and the extra fees that the students have to give.
yes,
Right? So that's why we are the better option in terms of training as well for the students, and a better option in terms of money is with respect to school.
right. Because you have also been, in place of students back like 2, 3 years before. Because you have also experienced all these things, and it's a really great thing. And if I talk further, if I talk about today's scenario, there is this hustle culture, entrepreneurship, and I feel that it has become toxic. I not toxic, but it has been romanticized a lot, and it has become that cool thing to showcase. So what's your take on this?
Right. So disclaimer warning to any viewer, right? Entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not a piece of cake. It's not going to be a moonwalk, right? It's not going to be anything that you imagine, right? It's all about work, 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 work.
Hmm.
We get, you search entrepreneur and you get these Google images of people living in villas and having Lambos, all of that. That's not going to happen, right? At the very start.
Right.
At the very start, it's all about the struggle, right? So I was watching, I think, another podcast, and I heard this very beautiful line: the more that you sweat in peace, the lesser you bleed in war,
Hmm. Right.
right? So right now it's the time for us to sweat, so that later on, when our startup is not a startup anymore, it's a full blown business,
Yes.
we don't have to bleed that much, right? So
Also,
it's all about sweating, 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 and not giving up, right? The moment that you think that this is getting too much on your head and you give up, it's not gonna work.
Hmm.
But one thing that I'd like to point out, Dave, it's not toxic. Alright, the word that you use, toxic. I'll not say that it's toxic for me. Might be for some people, because
Yeah.
for me it's a source of motivation, right?
Right.
Because it gets me on my feet. It wakes me up in the morning, right? I get up in the morning and the first thought I have, ki Aatmasaat ke liye I have this idea. I want to
Hmm.
do this, right? That's what motivates me,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I would not call it toxic,
Yeah.
but yeah, the struggle is real.
Hmm.
And again, it's not problems but challenges, right? Because challenges can be overcome.
Yeah.
So it's full of challenges, and yeah, you get the hang of it, but you never really get the hang of it, right? I know it's a very weird statement, but like, I hope I'm trying to get my point.
No, no, I completely get your point. I would also like to say that, you know, people I see nowadays, you know, people pretend that they are loving their work and instead they are not. You know, they are just mentally depressed. They are doing every shit and they are say and they just put an Instagram story saying, I love my work, hashtag hustle and every other stuff. So I feel that yes, entrepreneurship and hustle culture, it is right. You have to, you know, work in your, you know, when we are in young age, we have capability to work, and yes, obviously, because you know, I would say that you learn something out of it. It's never a waste. You obviously learn something out of it, and I feel if you know people feel that people pretend that they love their work, people pretend that you know, oh my god, it is so cool, even though they are for them it might not be the same case. I just my question and my I just follow up question would be that I feel people have started assuming or you know neglecting their own feelings. If someone is
Yeah. So
actually
like,
stressed, yeah, with something,
just to
he will
like,
not say this. He will just say that I love it because he feels that this comes in entrepreneurship. This comes so how can it be? How can it affect me? It is always good for me.
yeah, so like that's something that can make it toxic, but it's like it depends on you. It depends on the individual. So I personally feel like, adding to Shaury's point, even when you were telling the question, you
Right,
asking the question, we had the same smile, right? We shared the same smile because we know the struggle. But it's something that you know motivates us. So it depends on it completely. That,
right.
are you being challenged by it? Are you learning from it? If you're not, if you're just doing it for your CV, or maybe just for
Take off it.
trying to look cool in the society,
Yeah,
because if you're doing a startup, people feel that you're doing something different, or
yeah,
you're working 12 hours a day. It's not that way in all the startup. It depends if you're facing new challenges every day, and
hmm.
you're learning or not. Because personally, if we talk about our experience, we work a lot because of it. We need to manage a lot, and we're learning new things every day. And
Hmm.
if you think it's easy, we were planning to, we had a different business model. COVID came, situation second wave came. We
Hmm.
had our deals done, but everything got changed just because of the second wave. So
Right,
we had to change our business model at the last moment, and all the plans changed. And it's not easy. You have been working on for something for 6 months, maybe like 8 to 10 hours a day. At the same time, we are like managing our college, and the pressure of college societies,
right,
right?
right.
So we have been doing that as well. So it's really difficult and disheartening when everything changes because of some external factors or something that is not in your control, and you give your best. So entrepreneurship is not easy at all, but if you love it, if you love the challenge, you definitely grow as a person a lot. Success is, it's not guaranteed, but you grow as a person a lot, definitely,
Yeah, you
for
should
sure.
focus more on excellence because that
Yeah.
really matters. Success will come later on, but excellence should be your priority. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add on to what
Hmm.
Mudit said. So we actually formalized the idea in August end last year, and at the end of March, you're like, now this is all going to be about the money, right?
Hmm.
Because we had all these deals done, right? And in the last week of March, the government announced the lockdown again,
Right.
right? So all of that went to nothing in
Hmm.
like seconds for us, right? So all of those months, we felt like it went to nothing. And then I got COVID, right? My family got COVID. So it was again another bump
Right.
in the road,
Hmm.
right? But again, we took it as a motivation, right? Because as an economics student, right, you cannot go below the point of minima, right? There's only
Right.
going up from there,
Yeah.
right? So that's what we kept in our mind, and that's how we move forward. And to answer your question that you initially raised, I'd like to ask you a question first. What was your stream in class 12?
I had commerce with math.
Great. So you would know about this theory that's called the Maslow's need hierarchy theory,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That humans have certain needs. So when
yeah,
you talked about entrepreneurs saying that they are they are hustling and they're happy, but they're
yeah,
actually not. So see, it's very relative for everyone. Okay, I'm not
yeah.
going to
That's
say
true.
that uh, they might not be happy in it, right? So
Hmm.
everyone look for different things in their own, in their own ideas and their own initiatives. We are looking for something else. They might be looking for something else, right? If a person is the person's main need is to get to earn money, right?
Hmm.
So that person would earn money and not care about all those other things because that's not on their priority list, right? Money is on the priority list,
Right.
right? For us, it's about excellence and getting the best service forward. So we don't care about the money as long as they are able to be the best in the market, right? So
Yeah.
that's everyone's needs are different, and saying that they are not happy because either they're not earning money or they're not happy because they're earning money but they have to work a lot and they're affecting their health. It's all very relative to
Yeah.
individual.
It's very subjective.
And something which might be hustle for us would be
Hmm.
punishment for someone else, and something that's
Yeah.
punishment for themselves would be hustle for us, right? So yeah.
Yeah. No, no, I get your point. And I would also like to ask, do you feel that in the midst of all these things, all which is going, somewhere the corporate sector has got a bad name? Well, like, just for example, if a person is doing a 9 to 5 job, so people tend to assume that that guy is in a rat race, that guy is struggling, usko matlab, he's just bored with, matlab, he has compromised with his life, with his career.
Or maybe just being a minimum guy, like
Yeah, he's being that minimum guy. He's not achieved itna itna. And if a person is doing startup, I would not say the startup is successful or unsuccessful. We cannot say that. It depends on whatever it's going on. It's very subjective. So if a person has a, or you can say a tag of a college dropout, or if engaged in startup, so I would not say it is wrong or right, but people tend to assume that this guy could be the next Mark Zuckerberg. This guy could be that. Could be that. So do you feel that in the all these things, that corporate sector somewhere has got a bad name?
Right, as I said, it's all about everyone's personal needs. We get back to that need hierarchy wala pyramid,
Yeah.
right? If someone's psychological needs are being fulfilled while working in a corporate, good for them. If someone is not happy going to college and they want to do something of their own, go ahead, right? We are in the 21st century, and these barriers have mostly been diminished. There are still some barriers, but mostly they have been diminished. So
Hmm.
whatever you whatever you feel the most happiest in, I think that you should do. Talking about the general perspective of the corporate sector, yeah, to some extent it does get a bad name, but I mean, without the corporate sector also, I mean, we can't really, boost the economy, right? If there were
Right.
all entrepreneurs, then there were no one, there were no one to lead, right? The corporate sector is giving entrepreneurs chance to lead people, right? So basically, entrepreneurs exist, the corporate world exists to serve those entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
right? So if there is no one to serve those entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs will not be able to get their job done,
Right.
right? So it's a
so they
symbiotic
both go hand in
relationship.
hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship in a way, and yeah, they do get a bad name sometimes, but I mean, for me, it's nothing bad, right?
Hmm.
Because if they are able to satisfy themselves, get happy in that job, again, that's very relative for
Hmm.
everyone.
Yeah.
So be it. No one's no one's gonna judge you, and if anyone's gonna judge you, let them. It's not gonna affect your happy bottom
Right.
See,
line.
I'll just add to it, like if you do a startup, people will start judging you ki he's just trying to be cool, doing it for his CV,
Hmm.
or maybe like he's after money.
Right.
It's not about the it's all money for him and all. And if
Yeah.
you do a if you go for a corporate job,
Hmm.
people will judge you that he's settling for less, or maybe
Ah.
he's just trying to be a minimum guy. He is
Yeah.
not willing to put that extra pressure, extra hard work. So that judgment will always be there.
Hmm.
It depends on how you take it. If you start listening to every other person, you won't be happy and you won't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
So I personally feel that just do what you want to, with what satisfy your needs, and something that interests you. Like if you want to do a startup, go for it. If you're happy in the 95 job, it's good for you. It's the best option for you. So just ignore the judgment and just do what you want to do. Like ignore the judgment. That's the best thing you can do, and
Hmm.
because the judgment would be different every time.
Hmm.
Honestly, there are no barriers to your creative cloud anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? At no point you are restricted to not think, because that's not human. Right? No one can tell you ki, don't be creative, don't stop thinking. Right? We will think. That's human nature. We
Yeah.
will get creative according to the situation, and a lot of ideas that these big corporate companies get come from lower level employees. Right? A lot
Right.
of time, and sometimes they get credit, sometimes they don't get credit again, but no one really stopped them to explore their creative cloud. To some extent the work is, roboticized, if that's a word. I mean,
Hmm.
but yeah, no one's really stopping you to explore anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I completely get your point. And if so, okay, now if I'll move forward, in this lockdown period, you have noticed, there are various, I would say, massive open online courses available. There is Udemy, there is Coursera. So I would say that there is a kind of competition, because if anyone wants to learn something, he can go to your firm also, and apart from that, he has those options also. For example, when I first, it's my personal perspective, when I first saw your MUN course, so I was kind of startled because when I was at the age of, like, when I was in 8th or ninth standard, there was no one to teach me what is an MUN. I learned it from my own experience, and I feel that for MUN specifically, it is not required, you should get a proper course. So it's very subjective. It depends on person to person. So there are various other courses, which actually require a, I would say, offline experience, which, rather than online experience. Online is important, but right, book, pen, paper, that is important, but if that person is not, getting that offline experience, that offline feeling of what it is like to speak in front of 50 persons, you know, that thing. So
Right?
yeah, so there is this my perspective. So like, how do you take on this? My just
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll, yeah. So thank you so much for bringing this up. I mean, a lot of people have the same question, and I think after this podcast being out, this query would be clarified for a lot of people. So I took a survey last year of people who have been trained and who have not been trained in MUNs, right? Both people, and people who have been in the circuit, people who have left the
Hmm.
circuit, because I have a pretty well established, connection
Right.
in
Yeah.
circuits in India.
Hmm.
So I took the survey, and more than 80% of the people from the entire survey said that they were happy that they got trained, or at least they wanted to. Right.
Hmm.
So we have one thing clear, that people want this training. First point is that. Second point, where Aatmasaat comes in. So the training that a lot of schools are giving, and I'm coming back to those social science teachers
Right.
here. The schools are giving, some other organizations are giving, all of that. That training is focusing on particularly conventional MUN debate,
Hmm.
right? And that's just as a delegate. That's basically UN committees or conventional committees,
Right.
or sometimes they cover in Indian committees, right?
Hmm.
But personally speaking, I never really got the training to do crisis committees or
Yeah.
to do other types of committees, right? And crisis committees actually help you develop your creative
Hmm.
cloud to a great extent, because
Right.
I mean, we informally talked about some MUN before
Yeah.
this podcast starting, and I remember being a crisis there,
Yeah. There was a
right?
crisis. Yeah.
So you being a witness there, you saw how the debate shifted. So
Yeah.
that training was missing. And apart from that, no one really taught us on how to be a good executive board member, on how to be a
Hmm.
good OC member, on how to be a good secretariat member, right? This was all hit and trial for us, right?
Right.
And when you're being an executive board member, there are 50 people relying on your judgment for their experience,
Right.
right? So you can't go there blindfolded. You
Yeah.
can't go there just to get the experience, right? A lot of people do. A lot of people I have encountered, they have flawed rules of procedure, all of that, and that's okay. But
Hmm.
that's not really okay for the 40 people that are relying on you for a good experience. I was
Right.
glad enough that my first executive board was very experienced, so I continue doing MUNs. For a lot of my friends, their first EB is not that good, and they leave MUNs. They leave the beauty of MUNs, right? So we not just cover delegating, but we cover judging as well as organizing, which no one else talks about. And if you get to know how to judge an event, that develops your critical thinking, and it's not just going to help you in MUN, right? It's not just divided by, barriered by
Right.
these four walls. Creative, critical thinking can get you a long way. And event management, that's being an OC or a secretariat, that's going to help you at every stage, right? Even for organizing an office party, even if you're in the corporate world, right? That event management experience that we are teaching you about, that's going to help you. Even for organizing your kid's birthday party, right? It's going to help you at some stage in your life.
Right.
So we can't say that it's totally redundant and it doesn't help
Right.
you. And it's definitely going to help you when it comes to MBA.
Yeah, that's true. No, I completely agree with the fact, and I also feel that if not, if whatever experience one has gained, if not in short term, but in long term, it definitely helps us to evolve. It helps us to build. You don't you won't even realize when all those skills are helping you. Unconsciously we make life decisions. We have our reflexes, so
Right.
it all just reflects in that, right? I
Right.
don't. Yeah, that
Exactly.
I got it. Yeah. Yeah. So apart from that, I would just, I would say that generally, talking about the all over thing, the education sector in India, I feel it has sort of become a money minting machine. No doubt, there are various education institutions, there are IITs, NITs, IIMs, but it has sort of become a money minting machine. It's like to this scenario, you either buy a luxury car or you either raise a baby for their education. The cost gonna same. I just had this information. If a kid is studying in a boarding school, then the parents spend approx 18 lakhs rupees in the next 6 years. That's 169% has been rise in the inflation in primary and secondary education, and from 2005 to 2011, according to the survey by Assocham. So, if I talk about becoming a doctor in India, it is a unreachable dream from many students because in government college, the scenario, there are seats very less, and if they move on to private, the fees is unbearable. It is so high, and if one wanted to pursue masters or maybe PhD, he from a private, he should be ready enough to have bundles of cash with him, like 20-30 grand. So, like, how do you see it? Has it become like really bad for us, and will it improve?
See, the competition is brutal.
Yeah,
And if you look at the number of seats available, the demand is a lot and the supply is little. So there's a lot of competition because of it, right? So there comes in the lot of the tuition centers. Then there's a segregation between the schools, top tier schools, second tier schools, and all. So that increases the cost and makes it a money minting business. But it has become a money minting industry, but there are like a lot of factors for the reason, like for it to happen that way. If you talk about us as Atmasat, like focusing on that, because it's a long topic, like we can have a different
yeah,
podcast on that topic. But if we keep the answer to Atmasat, we personally are in the soft skill development side. So that's something that will help you in the real world. Plus uh, it's like there are a lot of organizations doing the same thing, or maybe helping you in developing soft skills with the help of different activities and all. But you got to choose between the ones who are doing it for money minting and the ones who are providing you actual skills. It's very easy to differentiate between them. It has become a money minting business. Some people are misusing it, but if do your research before joining a course, or just join it on the reference of a friend, just do a little bit of research, you'll find that difference. It's very easy to go for find out the difference and go for the right course. It is a money minting business, but it depends on you as a consumer, as a user, for which course do you go, and it depends on your choice. So it's actually you have to be the rational consumer here and go for the best course out there.
Right. Uh, Rightly said. And I'd like to say something, and this might not be diplomatically correct, but the education is part of human resource development, right? And this
mm,
is the sector that the maximum amount of investment that it can get, in my perspective, right? Because
right,
education is the bare minimum, right,
yeah.
for anyone, right? So if people are willing to pay, why wouldn't businesses charge, right? Businesses are charging that much money because people are willing to pay, right? If you charge a high fees and people don't pay, you reduce your fees. That's how it works,
Right.
right? But people are paying that high fees. Businesses are charging that high fees because people are willing to pay. First of all, second of all, you talked about hostels and boarding schools. So I had the opportunity to visit one of these boarding schools in Missouri. It's called Weinberg Alley,
Hmm.
and they charge like a pretty decent fees, like a pretty high fees per year.
Right.
But I did not hear a single complaint about the fees from any student or their parent, because of the only reason that they got the quality that they paid. Right. And talking about Atmasaat here as well, I'll not say that we provide the cheapest course out there, right? But I will say that in terms of quality, it's a pretty hefty course, right? You match up to the quality, you charge the price that we are charging. It's only fair, right? But the quality that we are providing, the certification that we are providing, the experience that we are bringing on the table, right? The price is totally justified. We as students ourselves know, and Mudit and I both being people who spend our own money and don't really like to ask money from our parents, we know the value of even a single rupee, and
Hmm.
how much these courses cost. So all of the costing that we have done is taking in mind our perspective as well, that will I go out of on a limb and buy this course with my pocket money, right? We
Right.
understand the struggle that students have with terms of shortage of cash. People who are living in hostels still, they get a monthly allowance from their parents. We considered all of that,
Right.
and with after all that consideration, we came up with this thing. And the luckiest thing is that we ourselves as students can understand our consumer base. We can understand because we have gone through that phase, right?
Hmm.
So we know everything about the money and everything about the money minting that's gonna happen here, right? But when we have presented, we took our pricing strategy to a lot of, industrialists and to a lot of mentors that we have, and not a single one said that either we are overpriced or anything,
Hmm.
right? So it is a money minting business. To sum it all up, it is a money minting business, but again, because people are paying for it, but that is because people are getting the quality that they want, right? And we are providing that quality for the people.
Talking about the pricing we are giving, like just we had a meeting with the mentor,
Hmm.
and the remark we had at the end of it was looking at the certifications. He didn't know about the quality because he didn't attend the course, right?
Right.
But looking at the certifications, he felt that we were underpriced. So we, being students, took in consideration all the factors and then came up with a pricing strategy, which is beneficial both for the students and for us, because
And
that's
that
fair, I guess,
meeting,
because we are doing business and we are trying to provide the best quality. But if we want to continue it, we need to have that you know fair amount for it.
fair
Yeah.
share for us as well, right? And that meeting was 6.5 months ago, right? And
Hmm.
after that, so much so has changed, right? We have gained
Yeah.
so much more value. We organized with more than a dozen other organizations who have declared us as their education partners, right? All of that has happened. Our brand value has increased, right?
Right.
And at that time, our price was, justified, and we have not
We had
increased our
zero
price.
students, zero collaborations at that time, and now like we have a lot of collaborations. We have trained more than 500 students. So yeah,
We
it's a,
a lot more than 500. So yeah, we have trained across around 1,200 students,
Yeah.
and we have a whole dedicated team of interns working with us, and a lot has changed, and still we have not even increased a single penny in our prices.
Hmm.
That's how we, this is how we show to the world that
Right.
Atmasat is not about money making. Atmasat is not about minting money.
Yeah.
Atmasat is getting you where we are right.
Yeah, I get. So you talked about like you have trained almost, I would say, approximately 1,200 students, right? And you have a whole dedicated team of interns, and you are education partners with like a dozen of institutions, and so that's Atmasat in 2021. So I would like to ask, what is your vision for Atmasat in 2030, 2035, like a decade after?
Right. So, okay, I'll take it then. So, by
absolutely.
2030, yeah, so Atmasat, what we have in our vision would be that Atmasat is a household name. that
Hmm.
anyone, if uh, any parent who has a kid who is going into class 6, they're like, what activity should I think for my kid? Oh, I don't need to worry. I'll just contact the POC at Aatmasaat. They'll tell
Yeah.
me what to do. Right. So by 2030, we want this whole dedicated chain across India and probably in other countries, working
Hmm.
towards profile building, working towards extracurricular activities, working towards bridging that gap between college and student, right? And it becoming a household name, as I said, right? No parent or no student should wonder in 2030 that what organization should I go to if I
Right.
want to develop this software. The answer
Yeah.
should be Atlas.
He should not be confused. Like, where should I go? Like, he should have this
That should
option. Yeah, on his tips, on his other tips.
that should not be a question, right? It should be a statement that I
Yeah.
want to do this. Okay, I'm going on to Atmasaat's website.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
period?
Mm. And I really feel, it will become a necessity in future. These soft skills and all. Like today, if we talk about, like, there are ABCD alphabets, everyone knows that. But I see that after a decade, these soft skills would be like a mandatory thing for everyone. Everyone should be, have must be aware or have a gist about like what these are, how these really work. Like if I talk about coding, so now the coding is the very at initial stage, like Python, C++, Java. But after a decade, it kind of become a necessity. And I also got through the national education policy, and the government has also introduced Python, I guess, in sixth or seventh standard, right? So these will really matter. And apart from that, any other further take-ons regarding this?
Yeah, just adding to it, like since we have meditation and
Hmm.
uh, we plan to bring in financial literacy as well.
So again, we are in the new normal now, and everyone has shifted into the online mode. So what we thought of to engage the audience and to engage, students all across the country. On our Instagram page, we have a weekly series, right? So Mondays are myth busting Mondays, Tuesdays are Tuesday trivia, Wednesdays are what happened when Wednesday. Right? So there's an entire series for every day of the week, giving you important information about GK, about finance, about education in general, about Atmasat. So it goes out to all the viewers that go and have a look at our Instagram channel, support us. We are organizing competitions every now and then.
Right,
Come and support us so that you can meet people of like-minded people like you, and so
yeah,
that you can build your own network that we are planning to do,
right,
right? So
yeah,
yeah, I'd like to say that for the online part, but Mudit has to say something with regards to meditation and the
yeah, sure,
offline.
sure.
Yeah. So I personally started meditating in class 11th, and I
Hmm.
feel that it has changed me a lot as a person. I've
Yes,
grown a lot. I've become calmer. I feel that my learning capabilities have increased. My thought process has changed a lot. And post COVID, I feel there's a lot of stress. You're on the screen for like 8 to 10 hours a day.
hmm.
You're working all the time, and you're sitting at your home. So it's not a work environment, right? So you need
Right,
that extra motivation. So you're putting in that extra effort all the time when you're working. So meditation is something which I think would become a necessity in the future. So that's something we would definitely want to cover under Atmasat, and like would recommend everyone to start doing it because it's something which is a necessity. And once you try it, I can bet you won't, be able to leave it, and or you'll just love it. I guess you yourself can
you're right.
vouch for it. Like
I can
you,
relate.
yeah,
Yeah. No, no. I just end on this ending note. I just want to ask one random question. Like, I just want one advice from both of you to a person or anyone who is in his, I can say, 10th or ninth standard and still figuring out what should he go, what should he do, in which activity he should go, what is more beneficial to him or her. So one advice. Just,
Right. So okay, I'll give my advice and then Mudit can give his advice. So first advice, when you are a ninth class student, right? You need to explore everything. Okay? So if may I speak in Hindi,
yeah, it's
right?
fine.
Right. So एक दो जगह हाथ पैर मारने पड़ेंगे and then you'll
हाँ,
figure out what for you, right? And second, do whatever makes you happy. Okay,
hmm,
that's the bottom. And third, if you have decided on doing something, don't give up easily, right?
right,
Because that opportunity that you gave up on so easily might not be that easily available to you 3 years or 4 years down the line,
right,
right? So identify, right, invest, and don't give.
Yeah. Mudit.
Like I had the same points in my mind, but like, so about the don't giving up thing,
Hmm.
it's really important. I would like to emphasize on that,
Right.
because once you start doing something, you realize there's a lot of competition, but you forget that why did you start it, because you enjoy doing it, and it was something you enjoy doing it. Just think about the moment you started. Like, even if we talk about entrepreneurship, there are moments we feel like giving up,
Hmm.
but just thinking about why we started it, and it's something that it's just a phase. If you pass it, you will have that success what you're working for. And just don't give up. Like Shaurya said, identify, invest, and don't give up. Just follow these three principles and you will have the success. And explore everything. यार तुम 9th 10th में हो,
Right.
किसी के पास कोई ब्लूप्रिंट नहीं है क्या करना है,
Right.
एंड अगर कोई तुम्हें दे भी रहा है ब्लूप्रिंट,
Hmm.
तो वो फ्रॉड है.
Right. कोई फॉर्मूला
सॉरी
नहीं
टू
है
से
कि
इट, बट
ये
फिर वो
करो
फ्रॉड
या
है.
करो.
कोई तुम्हें
Exactly.
ब्लूप्रिंट नहीं दे सकता इस चीज का. तुम्हें खुद एक्सप्लोर करना पड़ेगा.
Right.
और
My
एक्सप्लोर करो. कोई अच्छी बात है तुम्हारे पास प्लान नहीं है, सब एक्सप्लोर करो, तभी
Hmm.
तुम्हें पता चलेगा.
Right.
my massive teacher used to say कि कोई घोटा मैं तुम्हें पिला नहीं सकता, या कोई दुनिया में कोई बंदा तुम्हें इससे मिला के पिला नहीं सकता कि ये तुम्हारी लाइफ का प्लान है तो ये
हाँ.
फॉलो करना है. And the pandemic being the biggest example of it all.
Right.
Okay, it's so uncertain at any point, right?
Right.
And yeah, so just to follow up to what Mudit said, guys, don't easily give up, but at the same time, keep your mental health at your priority.
Hmm.
Right? If something affects your mental health a little too much, don't indulge in it. Right? It's time to
Right.
take a back seat. Right? So
Right.
your mental health, especially during the pandemic and otherwise also, keep it on number one. Right? And your activities, whatever you are pursuing, comes after that. Once your mental health is in right condition, everything else falls in place.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely get your point. So I feel we have ended our conversation. I just like to express my gratitude to both of you for coming on the podcast. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's that. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
for
Dave,
having us
for
here.
Oh,
yeah, giving us this opportunity to come here and talk about it. And
yeah,
you have been an amazing.
it's my
It
pleasure.
was a
It's my
great
pleasure.
conversation. Like,